Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Angelica with Love Letters to Milo. So in today's video, we're going to be painting some sakura, like this. So I'm going to show you a step-by-step process on how I painted these. And if you guys have been following my Instagram, you know that I'm moving, so all my art supplies are in like boxes somewhere. And so we're going to be painting with only 3 colors and 1 brush. So that's going to be really exciting. These 3 colors, it's going to be like a red plum, an orange, and an indigo. I'm going to be using these 3 colors, and I'm going to be using this 1 brush for the details as well. You'll see what I mean. But if you guys want more information about all the materials that I actually got at SAKURA, then I have a video. You can click in here and you can see my art haul from SAKURA in Tokyo that I did a few weeks ago. But for today we have very limited supplies and we're just gonna paint some cherry blossoms. So let's get to it. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the materials. And we're gonna start with this watercolor paper. I usually use just watercolor paper press. So it's this paper. I usually use this. I highly recommend it, but you know, you can try your own paper. Then I am going to be using these Gansai watercolor paints that they come in these pans. And it's very easy to just pick up color from there. Then I am going to be using a Raphael brush, like 2-0. Don't know what that means really. But so then I'm gonna use some clean water, and I think that is it. I am going to be using a wet on dry technique, and I'm going to be using also this palette paper. Let's see. Palette paper because I don't have anything else to mix my colors in. Everything else is packed away, and I am going to have this just paper tissue just in case. But one thing that I want to explain first is kind of like the 3 different types of cherry blossoms that are going to create the composition overall. So we are going to do like a full 4 or 5 leaf like front view. We're going to do a side view, and we're going to do just like a bud. So those 3 kind of like just make the composition of the sakura. But we also have to remember, I'm just wetting my brush and I'm going to mix some color. What we do have to remember is that sakura comes in, like it grows in like little pom-poms, like it grows in like little groups. So I'll show you what that means in a second. That's how it grows. But so we're gonna just mix some paint, not mix it, just kind of like lay it down so we have it ready. And we're just going to do this. Okay, so now I have all of my colors ready. So I'm going to explain first how to do a Sakura like front view. So it's going to be just very loose. Just pick up a little bit of this color. Remember that Sakura has 5 petals. So you have to leave room for 5 petals. So this is just like a lot of water. I'm just gonna keep adding water because I need it to be very watery. Maybe a little bit more color. Always remember to leave room at the center of the flower, because that's where like the petals come from. So basically this is the front view of the Sakura, like the top view. Then in order to create like the composition, then we're gonna add a little bit of side view and a little bit of like buds that haven't fully grown yet. So I'll show you a closer angle on how I work on the other petals. Okay, so now that I have you guys a little bit closer, then I'm just going to add a little bit of more pink in the center, because Sakura is very intense it has an intense color at the center. So I'm just gonna do a little dab. And that's it. Then I'm going to just clean my brush, and then I'm just gonna pick up a tiny little bit of the orange that I previously prepared, and I'm just gonna add a tiny little bit just to give it a little bit more color. I mean, just a tiny bit. Just that, not a whole lot, just a tiny little bit. So now I'm gonna do the petals that kind of look like a side flower. So they're just, I'm just gonna put them here. Maybe I need a little bit more water. No, a little bit too much water. Okay. Okay, so that's kind of like a side flower if you look at it from the side view. And then we're just gonna do a little bit of a few like buds. These are the flowers that haven't actually grown yet. Okay, so now that I have this kind of little bunch of flowers, what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna use the same brush, but very little water. and I'm going to use my indigo, and I'm just gonna create the branch basically. So just picking up a little bit of the indigo, and I'm gonna say the branch is gonna come from from the side here. So it's a very not perfect line, so the more like crooked it looks, the better. So it's just gonna do that. Then it has like a little bit of just little branches, and then we're gonna pretend that it grows from here and it goes in that way. Then it has a little bit of a branch there. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm just gonna add a little bit of water to my branch, just a clean brush basically, just to finish up the branch and it doesn't look so like unfinished. Just to soften up the edge a little bit. Just that. Then if I want to, I'm just gonna add another branch like coming like from here maybe, and I'm just gonna add a branch like coming down a little bit farther down the paper or something like that, or back here in this area. So I'm gonna go back to my farther angle, and then I'll show you how I finish up the painting. See, so it's very easy, very straightforward. I will add some details later when all of this is dry. I will add more details, but I have to wait for it to dry. So I will show you guys a little bit later how I add those other details. Okay, so now that I have sort of like this little bit of a composition and I can see that this one is like sort of a little bit more dry, I'm just gonna add a little bit more details. With the pink, I'm going to add just kind of like a second layer to give it a little bit more depth. So I'm just gonna go over it like really lightly, like say that was a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna pick up the paint from the brush and I'm just gonna go over a little bit. Just kind of really subtle, almost like a dry, it's like a wet on dry technique, just kind of really lightly. Okay, so that one's still a little bit too wet, but so I'm just gonna kind of leave it like that, let it dry, and add a little bit more detail once it's dry. I might actually right now, while it's wet, I'm gonna do the branch for the second little bunch of Sakura. So we're just gonna pretend that it comes from like somewhere here. Just kind of gonna do this. Okay, so I'm going to leave the branches like that, but now that I have these extra little branches coming out randomly on the sides, I'm just gonna add a little bit of like buds, as if like little buds were growing. So it's just little tiny little things. Like I'm just gonna do kind of this, very abstract, doesn't need to kind of look like anything, just a little blob. And I forgot to add orange. So if I tilt the paper like this, I can tell which areas are wet still and which areas are dry. So I'm just, to the areas that are still wet, I'm just gonna add a tiny little bit of orange. Okay. I'm just gonna leave it like that. I am going to now let it dry, and then I'm going to add the final details. Okay, so now that all of this has dried completely, then I'm going to add details. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the center of the flower basically. So I'm just going to directly take the paint from my pan, and I'm just gonna start adding like little details like this. Like the center of the flower has little So now that I noticed that my brush has too much water, I just go in again and I just take the excess water, and that way I create like a very pointy tip, so that'll give me the shape that I need for the inside of the flower. So I'm just going to add like tiny little lines. Need a little bit more paint. And then I go in and I add this other little detail. So I'm going to do the same over here. I'm also going to go ahead and add a little bit of finer detail to the petals. I'm going to add more detail to the petals in like a line. I usually add this detail with a much finer brush, but this works just fine right now. Okay, so I think we are officially done with this Sakura. It's all just nice and dry, and it has little details, and it has like 2 little bunches of Sakura, so that creates a really nice composition. And so that was that. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope you guys can follow along. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions and or suggestions, some feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I try to upload things about once a week. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my Instagram. I upload there a lot more often. I upload about once a day. So I also upload videos. So if you guys want to check out like any of my 1-minute videos, then it's all in there. So yeah, I hope you guys had fun, and until next time.